just now learning how to paraglide because I love aviation, but aviation is expensive. But paragliding is a really affordable, easy way to get up in the sky in a free flight way. There's no motors. You launch your wing off the top of a cliff. It's not like base jumping where you just jump off and you pull your parachute, but you lay the parachute on the ground, the wing on the ground, you pull it up with a gust of wind, and then it's above you flying as a wing, and then you nice and easily kind of hop off the edge of the cliff, and then you're flying. You can catch thermals, go off an elevation, fly for long distances, even without a motor. And one of the things that I'm learning in that is before you go, you always follow a procedure of steps. So first you lay your wing out on the ground, then you raise each of the lines to make sure the lines aren't twisted or they're not caught on a snag or on a branch or something that's on the ground you didn't see. And then when you put your harness on, you check to make sure that your reserve hasn't broken, or that you can still see the pins in it and that it hasn't come apart at all. And all these safety things that you do before you ever actually get in the sky. And just like the advice I was getting from the fighter pilot to say you follow this exact same procedure regardless of what the aircraft is. So whenever I do something new, whenever I get a new environment, even if it's a completely new sport, I try to follow a mental checklist of what am I going to do if this happens, and think through all the scenarios of what could happen. Because if you constantly think through that before you actually get in that experience, when that happens, you're not going to be surprised or caught off guard because you don't know what to do.
So you fall back on this mental checklist of all the things to keep you safe, and in doing so, occupy your mind to keep it away from potential emotional outbursts of freaking out. And instead, just kind of go through all the things that are productive and help keep you safe.
Exactly. Yeah, you really operationalize it and it's just like with boxing, when you get in the ring and you're fighting someone and someone does a particular type of punch or steps in a certain way, there's ways you can react to that environment, that situation, in a particular calculated way that has previously been thought out before you actually step in the ring. And if you have all the scenarios in your mind before you get in it, then you can more quickly adopt and change to the changing environment to best react to that stimulus of whatever happened.
Now, you brought up while paragliding you can catch thermals. Can you explain what a thermal is and what that does while you're flying?
So whenever you look up into the sky and you see just empty air or clouds floating and birds flying, there are a bunch of things that are going on up there that are all invisible. So think of the air like a river that you can't see. It's constantly moving in different ways with different currents and different patterns that are very similar to a river. It's just invisible. So what happens with thermals is that when the sun comes out, especially when the sun is midday, and that sun is baking the earth and the ground below it, if there are particular areas on the earth that are darker than others, they'll get hotter from the sun. And when they get hotter, it heats up the surrounding air around it. And when air gets hotter than the surrounding air, it rises. Hot air rises. That's how hot air balloons work. So as that air rises, it creates a column of rising air that's hotter than the rest of the air around it. And think of, it actually looks similar to like a drop of honey that might be falling off a fingertip. So if you turn the world upside down and you think of honey falling off of a board in these little columns, that's exactly what thermals are, but flipped upside down going upwards. So whenever you see a hawk that's circling around, not actually flapping their wings, but they're going up in elevation, it's because they found a thermal and they're circling because thermals are columns. So you have to stay in that column, they keep circling, they keep going up and up and up because they don't want to expend more energy than they have to. They find a thermal, they ride it up to the top, and then they glide back down. It's exactly what we can do in paragliding with a wing that weight to ratio is very similar to a hawk, where you find that thermal, you circle in the thermal, you go up as high as you can go, and then you fly to the next one, you find that, and you keep going up, and you could theoretically do that forever until you run out of thermals.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
So you say find a thermal, like, whatever, easy. Like, how do you?
Right, it's a bit hard to find something that's invisible.
Right. So how do you seek those out? Is it just experience, or is
well, just to preface, I am very much paragliding novice. Just started this several months ago. Thanks. I've read some books, listened to some podcasts, just like that. But yeah, it's the newest sport that I've really fallen in love with. That I've been spending as much time as I can training to get what's called a P1, P2 certification. That means you can fly by yourself without an instructor. Cool. So you need about 35 flights and a couple other things involved, but I'm about halfway through that, so I just want to preface saying whatever I say right now, it's probably not the best paragliding advice, but it's whatever I know right now. So the way you find these invisible thermals is through a couple different factors that can tell you that something is there. So for instance, when you see a bird circling and going up, well, that's the best way. Birds are better at finding thermals than anyone else, because that's their environment. They live there all the time. So when you see that, that's definitely a sign. But also there's a lot of kind of cloud type patterns that you can use to see that as well. So in a really pretty blue sky summer day and you see those cotton ball clouds, those are all the tops of thermals. And that's what creates those clouds, is that you have a column of hot air that's rising and it gets to a certain altitude to the point where it cools off, that water vapor cools, and it forms a little cotton ball cloud. So whenever you see that cloud, under it could be a thermal. But I say could be because clouds drift. So it might be the top of a thermal that was actually over there, but now it's over here, and the thermal's no longer under it. But if there's not a lot of wind and those clouds are staying pretty steady, good chances there's a pretty strong thermal under that cloud. So you can use that. You can also look at the ground below you and you can see, okay, well, that's a parking lot, that's a road, that's a lake. Those things reflect heat a little bit better and probably would create a thermal. So it's when you get over that, if you feel like you're going to be kind of being pulled up a little bit, then you found it. So a couple of different ways that you can find it.
Okay, so bird watching, cloud gazing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when you say it that way, it's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, exactly. So super interesting stuff. And is paragliding something that you can do with Vestigo today, or something in the future that you?
No, unfortunately, paragliding is just one of those kinds of sports. It's like, I don't know what a comparable thing would be, but you have to go through a multiple week program just to be able to do it by yourself. You could do tandem paragliding, but it's only one person at a time. Right, exactly. So we like things that a whole group can do together, that you can do in your very first time. So something like paragliding, the gear is pretty expensive. One wing is between $3,000 and $5,000, so it's a bit more expensive than a climbing harness. So it's a little bit harder to use paragliding, but just a little bit, unfortunately. But there are a lot of other things we can do.
Cool. Well, so if people want to find out more about Vestigo, find out more about you, where can they go?
Yeah, well, this podcast is definitely the best way, for sure. But you can also go to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, check out Vestigo. We've got a bio on there. Anyone who is interested in learning more about the outdoor space is always welcome to reach out to me, and would love to help in any way I can.
How can they do that on Instagram, Twitter? What are your
Instagram's
handles?
the best way.
Okay.
Yep.
What's your handle?
So it's at Marshall Mosher. So Marshall with 2 L's and then Mosher.
Awesome. And any final words? Anything else you wanna share before we call it?
I would just give a voice of encouragement to anyone who's considering doing something that gets them outside of their comfort zone but hasn't yet. Maybe that's why they listen to this podcast. Maybe it's something that's been in the back of their mind. All it takes is 10 seconds of insane courage to get outside your comfort zone and do something new. And the reason why Matt's laughing is because that's actually the title of one of our friends' books that he just came out with, which is an awesome book, which everyone should go read. Garrett Gravison, 10 Seconds of Insane Courage, which totally links in this mindset. But that's exactly what I would do, is take that small bit of exciting courage from all the stories you've heard from everyone that's been on this podcast and anyone that's done something you really admire. Use that to take that first step. And once you take the first step, the rest is easy from there. It's the first step that if you can overcome that, the rest follows in place. So
what I'm hearing is go rappelling with Vestigo.
Exactly.
Sign up for Brawl for a Cause.
Yep.
Change the world.
Buy Garrett's book.
Yeah, buy Garrett's book.
Right. Yeah.
Marshall, thank you so much for coming on. Great friend. You've been a great guest. Looking forward to a lot more adventures with you.
Thanks. Yeah, same with me. We'll do some more night rappelling soon.